Okay, good evening all. So last day what we were discussing is about the sequence selection repetition. Sequence selection and repetition, basic control structures which were used in programming. Programming use use karna control structures ගැන තමයි අපි කතා කරේ. And today what we are going to do is we are going to discuss about variables as well as identifiers, variables, and then about lists. That is what we are going to discuss about. Okay, to discuss about these things, to discuss about these identifiers, variables, and variables, identifiers, and lists. First of all, I would like to identify the concept of identifier. Actually, identifier means something that we introduce into the programming interface, some name that we introduce into the programming interface. It can be to name a function, name a method, name a variable. So not to display, it's not a literal, basically it's not a value, but it's not a value, it's basically a name that you introduce. For an example, when you're making variables, when you're creating variables, you tell different names. So these are identifiers. Okay, let's say number. So this NO is an identifier as well as it's a variable. So why it is becoming a variable? I identify a variable එකක් වෙන්නේ. Variable is basically storing a change in value. Variable එකට පුළුවන් වෙනස් වෙන value එකක් store කරලා තියාගන්න. It can store a change in value. වෙනස් වෙන value එකක් store කරලා තියාගන්න variable එකකට පුළුවන්. විචල්්‍ය එකට පුළුවන්. විචල්්‍ය එක තමයි එක මතක තියාගන්න. Identifier කියලා commonly අපි කියන්නේ what is an identifier? Identifier is basically any kind of name that you introduce into the program. So අපි නමක් වුණා හරි දෙයකට යොදා ගන්නවා නම් ඒවා තමයි maybe to identify a list, identify a block, identify a variable. If you use something, that is basically an identifier. Okay, so there are some rules when introducing an identifier, but these rules are, I must say that these rules are not really evaluated in Scratch, because Scratch is not a formal programming language. It is a block-based programming language. Therefore, the variable rules or variable naming conventions are not really considered. හරි, variable rules නැත්නම් variable naming conventions වැඩිය සලකන්නේ නැහැ Scratch වල. මොකද Scratch කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම programming language එකකට වඩා මේක block based programming language නේ. code ලියන්න නැති language එකක්. ඉතින් ඒ හින්දා variables ගැන එච්චර හිතන්නේ නැහැ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් normally variables cannot be started with a number. හැබැයි මේකේ පුළුවන්. right, number එකකින් start කරන්න බැරි වුණාට මේකේ පුළුවන්. right, here you can start with a number, that doesn't matter. එතන variable special symbol යොදා ගන්න බෑ. හැබැයි මේකේ පුළුවන්. here we can use, but that is not good. ඒක ඇත්තටම හොඳ දෙයක් නෙවෙයි. Still it is not a good thing, but you can introduce variables like that. Variable වලට keywords යොදා ගන්න බෑ. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට මෙතන තියෙනවනේ, දැන් මේ මෙතන තියෙන වචනයක් මම දාගෙන set කියලා. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් බෑ. හැබැයි මේකේ පුළුවන්. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ තියෙනවා මේකේ ගැටලු. This is not a not a programming language. Therefore it uses let me delete this. Delete this as well. Let's write about these variables, small note about these variables first. Then I would like variables and identifiers. Commonly identifiers can choose note එකක් ලියාගමු. After that we can continue to learn about these variables and identifiers. Basically, we are going to do an exercise today highlighting these variables and identifiers, right? First of all, let's write down the note about the variables. First of all, identifiers. Okay, then variables. Please write down this note very quickly. What are these identifiers and what are the variables? First of all, please write down this. Then I will explain. The variable is basically a memory location which holds change in value. Variable එකක් කියන්නේ මතක ස්ථානයක්. Memory location එකක්. එයාට පුළුවන් වෙනස් වෙන value එකක් හොඳවා ගන්න. I will explain that, right? Don't worry, I will explain that. First of all, please write down this part quickly. This is not there in your note. ඔයාලගේ note එකේ නැහැ. එහෙනම් ඉක්මනින් ලියා ගන්න. Please write down underneath of these variables. Stretch is a block-based programming language. Therefore, it will not consider most of these rules, but it is still important but it is still important to preserve these rules for clarity of the program. For clarity of the program code. Please write down this part at the end of this session. Okay, now let's learn about, after learning that, I will give you 1 minute to write down. Okay, after learning that, we can move into the next part, which is actually lists and then list operations and also algorithms. And before that, I said that I promise you that I will explain variable. So you need to write down this quickly write down this, and then I'm going to explain the remaining part. Okay, then let's move to the variable part. What is actually a variable? Variable is like this. It's like a glass. So let's think this glass name is A. You can fill it with any amount of liquid. So now it is like full, or you can make it half filled, or you can make it quarter filled, or very small amount. That means with inside this glass, you can like keep any amount of liquid which is supporting up to, there's a maximum, but there's no minimum, there's a maximum. Like keeping that limit, you can store and you can keep any amount of liquid inside this glass. That is basically a variable amount. Time to time, different amount of liquid. Maybe in the morning, this amount of liquid, in the noon, this amount of liquid, in the evening or night, this amount of liquid. It changes over the time. So, but the name of this glass is not changing. A variable is something like that. The container name is not changing. This is basically a specific area allocated in the memory. Specific area allocated in the memory, which is allowing you to store. Specific area allocated in the memory, which is allowing you to store certain values. But variable can hold only one value at a time. Variable can hold only one value at a time. In a given time, it has only a certain value, one value, but not multiple values. So you can introduce variables using this variable section. Okay, so then what? Now you know about the variable. So let's learn about the lists now. List is actually, in a variable, you can store only one value. In a variable, typically you can store one value, but in a list, you can store multiple values same time. So let's make a list. Let's say the list name is marks. This mark list, you can add multiple values. Let's say you can add names, values, anything, right? You can add multiple values and keep that values in the list. That is possible. And you can delete the values. You can update the value. All these are possible with this. And delete, update, anything is possible. So this is empty initially. Actually, I just want to store 10 values in this list now. I just want to store 10 values in the list. Variable, basically, we can use variables to show unknown values. What are these unknown values? Unknown values means like this. Okay, let's say you have clicked the flag and you are sending a message to the user, enter a number or enter your name. Actually, the answer given, you can store in the variable called name. This name variable, now you can store the answer. But still, you don't know what is the value in variable. තාමත් ඔයාව දන්නේ නැහැ මේ variable එකේ තියෙන value එක. හැබැයි ඔයා දන්නවා එක name එක store වෙනවා කියලා. හැබැයි දන්නේ නැහැ value එක. හේතුව flag එක click කරාම තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ අහන්නේ. What is your name? Then I'm typing my name. Then only it will be entered to the variable. Now the value of variable is Dasun Nilanjana. And when I click this again, let's say Dasun. Now the value is Dasun. When I say Malki, now the value is Malki. You don't know the value, but still you can keep the variable in your program. Value එක දැනගන්න ඕනේ. Value එක dynamically වෙනස් වෙනවා. අපිට store කරන්න තැනක් විතරයි ඕනේ. Okay, now what we are going to do? We are going to store 10 values in this marks list. I will show you the sample code. In order to do that, initially you can clear the list if there are any items. Let's clear this, and you can insert into this. And how we are going to insert? You can ask a question. What is, okay, enter a number. Enter a number, waiting for that. And the answer given, you can store in this. This you need to do 10 times. Repeat 10 times. Now, actually, when you run this code, it will enter 10 marks into this. Okay, let's try. Okay, there are 10, and after that it is over. There are 10, and after that it is over. There are 10 marks now in this. Actually, when you start again, it will clear and allow to enter another 10 marks. So let's do this now. Let's do this now. What you need to do now is the exercise here. You need to find out once you enter, there will be 10 numbers now. So you can see there are 10 numbers. When you enter, there are 10 numbers. After that, try to find out the maximum and minimum number from the given list. Actually, this list. Out of this list, try to discover what is the maximum and what is the minimum. Right? Okay. Try to find out what is the maximum and what is the minimum. You can display that back to the user. The maximum and minimum you can display back to the user, and also the total. ඔයාලා try කරන්න හොයන්න මොකක්ද maximum. මෙයාගේ maximum කවුද ඇත්තටම? Here according to this it is 89 is the maximum. What is the minimum? Minimum is 45. Try to discover maximum and the minimum. Don't tell that 89 is maximum, 45 is the minimum. In this case, that is the මේ වෙලාවේ එක තමයි. හැබැයි එහෙම නොවෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. Different time, different maximum, different minimum. Try to discover that now. You can do this. You can try this within next 5 minutes. ඊළඟ විනාඩි 5 වට try කරන්න පුළුවන් to find what is the maximum and find what is the minimum, and also find what is the total. Maximum, minimum, and total. Right. Then I will ask few questions. So since is it difficult? I don't think. Okay, if there is only one, okay, let's say there's a one member in class. Can you tell me who's the tallest now? Who's the tallest? If there's only one member, who is the tallest? And who is the shortest?
That one.
Yes, that one. Tallest is that one, shortest is also that one. Okay, now let's assume there's another one came to the class. Another one came to the class. Now who's the tallest? Who's the shortest? Tallest, you have to compare the newcomer, whether the newcomer is taller than the existing tallest. Existing tallest is this. Newcomer is taller than existing tallest. Therefore, you need to link this. Now the tallest is this. And about the shortest, newcomer, is it shorter than the shortest? No, you can keep. Okay, let's think another one. Now you are checking again. The now tallest is this one. Is the newcomer taller than the tallest? Yes, the newcomer taller than tallest. Therefore, now the tallest is not that all tallest. The newcomer is the tallest. You are comparing against the existing tallest. Inner tallest you are comparing again the existing tallest. The newcomer is the tallest now. Okay, let's think another one came, the class. Now, who's the tallest? Is it taller than the newcomer? No. Is it is newcomer taller than the existing? No. But you can check with the shortest. Is the newcomer is shorter than the existing shortest? Yes. Then the new shortest is this. So likewise, you can compare with the existing tallest, existing shortest, and get the decision. So let's apply these two. Okay, I'm going to add two new variables, min and max. And first of all, I'm telling, okay, let's say when you press the space key, you can use anything that you like. I'm using that, I'm assigning that the space key. When you press the space key, from the max and min, I'm assigning max, min. The max is, let's say, the first item of marks, and the min is also the first item of marks. Initially, at the initial stage, because if no one is there, the first tallest is first, shortest is. Then actually you need to repeat, because there are 9 more. There are 9 more things that you need to check. Actually, when you are checking, you can check whether the newcomer is basically the item 1 of the list. But not just the item 1, you can check item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, 6. In order to change that, you can introduce another variable, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like you need to change. No? Initially, this C is, let's say C, initially you can set it to the 1 because you are checking the first item. But later in the second item, when you want to change check the second item, you can increase that by 1. And then this C is always incrementing by 1. C is 2, then check in the second item. Say C is 3, check in the third item. C NN eking එක වැඩි වෙනවා. The C 3 item එක 4 item එක, likewise all the items you are checking with the existing, sorry, item C. Actually you are checking with this max. If max, you are checking if item C is even greater than the max. Max වලටත් වැඩිය ලොකුයි නම්, then the new max is, then you can say the new max is the particular item C. The new max is that item ne. C item එක කියන item C එක වෙනස් වෙනවා. C 1 2 3 විදිහට වෙනස් වෙවි item 10ටම යනවා. C 2 නම් දෙවෙනි item එක ලොකුයිද බලනවා max ට වඩා. එහෙමනම් දෙවෙනි එක තමයි max. තුන්වෙනි item එක ලොකුද බලනවා max ට වඩා. එහෙමනම් තුන්වෙනි item එක තමයි max. Likewise, you are checking all the items. Actually, you can delay to check this, whether this is happening, or you can check, or you can pass a voice message. I'm just passing a voice message, adding text to speech. Okay, I'm checking. If this is bigger, let's tell speak new bigger 1 pound, new bigger 1 pound, and let's delay this by 1 second. Okay, so let's press the space now. Okay, because the max is 89, it's not, nothing is bigger than 89, therefore this will, so let's change the item, right? Let's change the item. I'm changing this to 680, and this is to 76. Okay, now let's check with by pressing the space key.
A new bigger one found.
Okay, new bigger one found, that is 87. After that, no big. 90. Okay, now Checking from the beginning.
A new bigger one found. A
New
new
big-
bigger one found.
Okay, now 2 times it's telling new bigger one found because item number 90 is bigger. Let's say here you have item number 81 and here you have 84. Now it continuously telling 1, 2, 3, 4 times, right?
A new bigger one found.
New bigger one found.
A
That
new
is
bigger
81.
one found.
That is
A
80.
new bigger one
4.
found.
That is 80.
A new
7.
bigger one found.
That is 80. That is 90. So likewise, always it updates. Always it updates. මේ part එක ඕන නැහැ. New bigger one found is not required actually. ඒක ඕන නැහැ. And wait for 1 second is also not required. But I just want to show you this happens. මේක වෙනවා කියලා පෙන්වන්න ඕන හින්දා තමයි මම දැන්. Actually, for the smaller item, you can copy and paste. Like you can duplicate this, but this time you
A
have
new
to
bigger one found.
change it.
A new bigger one found. A new bigger one found.
Copy. Let's check it the other way. The item C of which is less than the minimum. If there is something less than the minimum, a new smaller one found. Okay, and finally you are assign this to item C of mark. This should be min, right? Min. Okay, let's try.
A new smaller one found.
New
A new
smaller,
bigger one found.
new bigger one,
A new smaller one found.
new smaller one,
A new bigger one found.
new bigger one,
A new bigger one found.
another bigger one,
A new bigger one found.
another bigger one. Okay, now the smallest is 45 and the biggest is. Did you understand how to do this? Anyone need help or anyone need to understand the concept? I just wanted to show you the concept, right? So this is actually, so we are accessing the list items. We can access list items. And now you have to do one thing, that is finding the total. Okay, try this first. Try this. Right. One is okay, yes, there is nothing wrong with that, but you can use the loop. You can use loop and rather than doing this, you can use loop and just add one item at a time. Basically, you're accessing one item. You can add one item at a time just within the loop. That you have to try. Okay. Okay, I will stop from here then. Good night. See you all next week.